So, at the time of doing this, I have just filmed the Will video coping about the budget, and I said, "Oh, we were going to do a double header, that we were going to go and do this other sort of big copium piece." And then I saw this because at the time I'm doing this, or at least when this video will go out on Friday, the polls are closed. Like, you can no longer vote in the Conservative Party general election. And yet, this piece came out little more than 20 or 30 or so minutes at the time I'm doing this. But this piece is insane because it is pleading, pleading with people to go and vote. Because one of the big things that we've seen in the membership of the Conservative Party during this election, now left with a choice of either a really right-wing candidate or another right-wing candidate. Many of the Conservative moderates, the One Nation Party members, have just turned around and just gone, don't want to vote for either of them. They're both as bad as each other. They're both going to be absolutely awful and terrible. I just want no part of it. Which now bring in, of course, none other than the former MP, Damian Green. He was the MP for Ashford, I believe it was. Yeah, for Ashford. That was one of the big losses of the of the Conservative contest, returning a non-Conservative MP for the first time in, I think, 29 years or something like that. So it had been a long time since that seat had changed. But now you've got this Conservative moderate begging other Conservative moderates, please, go vote, even though you've only got until like 5 o'clock on Thursday, the 31st, to vote, which already indicates the trouble and chaos that is going to take place within the Conservative Party. So let's get into this. But before we do, please do remember to click on the like, share, the subscribe button. The Patreon page down below. There's the Buy Me Coffee link. There's the YouTube thank you button. There's the Pony Club down below as well. So thank you very much to all those people who do go and join that. And like I say, even if you do just hit the like and share button, it all helps. So thank you very much to everyone who does support the channel. So let's go over onto this. But yeah, this is some desperate pleading on this. So, Damian Green, moderate Conservatives, your party needs you. So, the rumors are abounding that voting in the leadership election is low. The Sun's political editor has written it. I've heard it myself when discussing the race with friends and former constituents. This is a bad thing for our party, and it is a bad thing for the efforts of whoever wins in rebuilding and unifying this creaking institution. So, better yet, Green, maybe you should be addressing why these people do not want to vote, why they are not voting in this contest. Maybe you should be asking that question. What is it about these people who do not want to vote? Because, they've got a choice between a right-wing candidate and a right-wing candidate, and they just don't want anything to do with it, So, as an MP, I've always told people that they should vote even if they do not want to vote Conservative. It applies just as strongly to party elections. Whatever, of course, my own views are on the relative merits of now the two remaining candidates, I believe the party members should vote. We Conservatives always cast out on the trade union ballots that have low turnouts. Let's not repeat that mistake. I love it. So, whatever my own views on the merits of the remaining candidates, just please vote, because otherwise, people might cast doubts, as we have done on trade union ballots, because we have done everything in our power to make that so. But let's not make that same mistake, please. Party unity and everything. So, He continues, we need this person who wins this race to have a mandate to do what they need with the party to try and get us back on track and back into government. That's not going to happen with either of these candidates. I do not understand why Damian Green is writing under this fantasy that is potentially going to happen under this candidate. I know that the MP stages are, of course, finished, and of course, the final three candidates basically within the margin of error. But this is very often the nature of a three-way race with very different offerings and different relationships within Parliament. Yeah. You've got two right-wing candidates. Why do you think then maybe this is turning voters off? Maybe you should be addressing that. So the membership stage now is now whittled to, of course, these final two options is different. You have the power to choose, and you should use it, of course. I do understand why some feel that they have been ostracized by this process. I was in the Tom Tugendhat campaign team, and I do firmly believe that he has what it takes to lead us. But just as I found in July, votes do not always go our way, and you need to pick yourself up and choose a new path. Except this is a path for a lot of people they do not want to take down. They do not want to go down this path because they know that Robert Jerrick has basically said, well, if you don't agree with me, yeah, you ain't serving on my front bench. Kimmy Badenoch has admonished many, many times the One Nation people because they hate them. They absolutely despise them. So no matter how much Damian Green might be calling for his fellow One Nation people to vote in this contest, and bear in mind, we will probably find out how low this turnout is. I will not be surprised to find out if this voter turnout is very low. But whether they will say that or not is another question. So he continues, I do also understand why many of the so-called moderate wing of the party, like me, the One Nation wing, do feel that they do not have a dog in this fight. I've spent much of my political career pushing our party to operate from the centre ground, or even the common ground, as Keith Joseph correctly called it. As one of the very few Tory MPs elected in Blair's 1997 landslide, who was now in the middle of things as we cycled through leaders and who tried their utmost to find common ground and failed. I do feel it is my job to actually encourage moderates in our party, in our policy development and our language. Except the right, once again, is going to have complete control of the party. And bear in mind, not too long ago, remember that article we went over of Will Atkinson saying to, kill the sons of Brutus, just ditch all these One Nationers, just finally complete the purge, just get rid of them. Yeah, good place to share your thoughts again on that. However, there is no reason, of course, to sit on your hands this time around. The threat to the Conservative Party is very real. We've just suffered our worst defeat in history, and the last 14 years have taken now a punishing toll on our council members. Our core vote is now getting older, and our membership now mirrors that. Well, perhaps then you should be really thinking what it is the Conservative Party actually offers. Ask whether following this free market fundamentalist idea or this ideology is worth it anymore. Has the country now changed so much that the Conservative Party just has no longer kept with the times and is now appealing, as you've rightly pointed out, to this very, very same voting bloc that is just getting smaller and smaller and smaller? Maybe it's time for a big fundamental change in the Conservative Party, but that isn't going to happen because they would have to ask some very deep and real questions. And I don't think even Damian Green is actually admitting to even asking those questions, what he would actually take those questions to heart. So he continues, perhaps, of course, most existentially, reform has succeeded where UKIP and the Brexit Party never really could and made proper roads now to Westminster politics. They have 4 MPs. Sorry, 5 MPs. No, is it? Yeah, 4 MPs. I won't say it's proper inroads. Ultimately, I think many of those reform candidates are going to lose possibly at the next election. And if anything, as I've said many times, your real actual opposition isn't reform, it's the Lib Dems. So once again, even Damian Green misidentifying who his real threat actually is. So the early, of course, comfort blanket grabbed for by many Tory members I spoke to after July was that the likes of Farage and Trice would grow bored of the requirements of parliamentary procedure, and the Brexit Party would, of course, wither. But there are no signs of that happening. And in the meantime, there is now another party on the right of British politics. It may be peddling easily and false answers to very difficult questions, but this is a threat to us. So why not actually challenge them on that? Oh, that's right, because you've been maybe peddling almost some of the very same easy answers to those difficult questions as well, which fundamentally does show they need to completely change how they think, what policies they should support in their party. Is that going to happen under this new leader, which is just going to be Kimmy Badenoch? No, absolutely, absolutely not. So a low turnout at this leadership election would not only give the winner now a poor mandate for change, but it could also potentially signal to the outside world that it is now time to look elsewhere. We would be opening the door for our opponents to claim that our time is up. Gee, this seems to be written really much in desperation, really much in desperation on this. I think this guy must have been privy to some information to say that turnout is low, and he must have gotten some really bad numbers, if he thinks, or having to write this, like saying, you know what, you might hate Kimmy Badenoch, you may hate Robert Jerrick, but please go vote. Yeah. Oh, there must be some really bad things going on behind the scenes. Really bad things going on behind the scenes. Anyway, he continues. This isn't. Of course, it isn't. And I do love the Conservative Party, but I will not let it go quietly into the night. Well, maybe fundamentally, it's time to really rethink what the party maybe stands for, what policies maybe it should completely ditch and get rid of. Maybe the whole thing about getting rid of the Human Rights Act just needs to be gone. Maybe the whole thing with Jerrick, leaving the European Court of Human Rights needs to be gone. Maybe there needs to be a complete fundamental rethink, maybe on Europe, that actually Europe wasn't actually that bad an idea and that Euroscepticism was just a completely bad ideology for the party to follow. Fundamentally, lots of questions, and still, and those are just a few of them, bear in mind, still a lot of other questions. Small government. Should the Conservatives really be for small government when the voting public does not want small government, when they want more public spending on public services, on investment, but the Conservative Party is fundamentally and ideologically against that? Do you think at that point they need to fundamentally change? No. And that's what's going to end up destroying them, for the very fact, again, this guy says their biggest threat to them is reform. It's not. It's the Lib Dems. They lost more seats to the Lib Dems than they did to reform, but they are just terrified that there is now another party on the right and their vote is split. And so many of them cannot get their head around the fact that they are now having to deal with a split vote, which, bear in mind, many of us on the left have had to deal with for years, but there you go. So back to this. So I make this appeal to the disaffected, the moderates, the tired and despairing. Don't sit this one out. If you look closely at each candidate, you will find something there you can support. I don't think so. I think if you are a moderate that is tired, despairing, and disaffected, and you look at these two candidates, you ain't going to vote for either. There is nothing there for you whatsoever. Let's face it. Something that can lead us back from this historic low. But more importantly, by voting, you'll be helping to boost those numbers by giving our winner a clear chance to grab the bull by the horns and telling the entire country the Conservative Party is ready once again ready to lead once again. Don't think so. Don't think so. Oh, by the way, if you are one of these disaffected moderates and tired and despairing conservative moderates, please do comment down below. I would love to know what you think, like, of these two candidates. What is stopping you voting for these candidates? And more interestingly, what you're going to do next. Will you continue to be a Conservative Party member? Are you considering looking at other parties? I would love to know. So if you are a Conservative Party member, please do leave your comment down below. I will be very, very interested to hear that. But if you are also a Conservative Party member and you would like to maybe come on stream and discuss this with me, especially in the wake possibly of a Kimmy Badenoch victory, I would love to hear what your one-party consensus on this would be. So I'd be very interested to know. So we'll see what happens on that front. So let's see what we've got, because some of the comments instantly are very, very interesting. This one straight away. So last week, I got completely downvoted for suggesting that there might be a low turnout. But I do generally agree that the members should actually vote if they can actually find something to prefer between the two candidates. It is true that a significantly lower turnout than 19 and 22 does send something of a signal about the mandate for whoever wins. The members, of course, are entitled to send that message. And if it happens that the winner needs to take it on board. Very true. If there is a lower turnout, then Kimmy Badenoch is going to have to take that message on board, that she has turned away a lot of her core voters who are actually members of her own party. What does that say about her, future direction? It doesn't mean, of course, abstaining members will not support them. It means that they will have to make sure that they do not take that support for granted. It means that they will have to follow through on implementing unifying the party, which they will not. That will include members who may have even preferred one of the candidates not even presented to them by MPs, or having been completely unconvinced by all of the final 4 or 6. This is important because the rebuilding task is huge and a job now to be undertaken over the next 3 to 4 years. This isn't won and achieved by simply coming first in this election. I'm a constituency officer in Farringdon, a former association chair, a regional area deputy chair. Definitely someone high up in the Conservative Party. I've had so many major activists asking me which way to go over the last 3 months, not because they want to fight internally or even threatening to withdraw the support if the wrong person gets in, but because they are not seeing a clear reason why to go one way or the other. And these are the folk who have done for years the hard yards on the ground delivering strong campaigns. This is something that this is actually really interesting, because this is a message that they are ignoring, that you are even now turning away your core support, that your core supporters, your people who are willing to go out in the cold and pouring rain and deliver and drop leaflets, that you're even turning them off. That should be ringing major alarm bells. So we were, of course, there in the counts in May and July, still doing the PD level analysis to see which war to target and to build back from, even while confronting defeated candidates and unseated councillors. We were at the conference this year. Locally, we sent many more than the past decades. And of course, now both engaged and with public who want to hear the doorstep reactions. Do vote today. If there is someone you prefer, I do suggest to the winner that they remember those who voted for you, your opponent, and those who are not yet convinced by either of you. So that is an incredibly strong rebuke, but it just goes to show you this is why we go to the Conservative home, because often the comments, you get people who will write a comment like that, and you'll just go to show you really where the non-parliamentary party is, like what they think, and that is something that doesn't often get covered. But to see someone who has taken that level of interest, being an associate chair, a federation member, an area deputy chair for the Conservative Party, and has just gone, there's nothing for us to hear. And he's had people come up to him say, which way should I vote? I don't know. There's just nothing for us. It goes to show you the deep level of concern in the Conservative Party about who is about to win and the direction the party could go in. Someone else said, you only need to read this to realize that Bobby J is writing political checks he cannot cash. The notion that Mr. Green would countenance Bobby's agenda, whatever its merits, is for the birds. Someone else says here, bravo, Mr. Green. I am on the right of the party, but I do value and cherish the presence and contribution of those on the left. They do have a point of view that it does deserve to be heard and debated. This is the tussle of good-natured internal debate, and this will see what the ideas are robust enough to stand up to scrutiny by our opponents and the general public. At times, of course, we have to decide on things, and that means that there are winners and losers. I would like to think that we are all mature enough to accept that sometimes. We lose. It is the nature of politics. And I would like to think that the losers, which will mean me on occasion, can actually accept their fate without sulking about it. Alas, the last 14 years have seen an epic display of sulks and tantrums, with people storming out, metaphorically, if not literally, stammering and then slamming the door behind them. Above all, we should then actually show the world that we are united in a way that we are manifestly not, sort of the last three parliaments, mainly over Brexit. That is still true. That is, again, very, very telling that still the Conservative Party is internally divided over Brexit, over the European question. So if we approach the 2029 election as the same squabbling rabble that we were in the recent past, then we disqualify ourselves again in the eyes of voters. That would give Starmer now gets an undeserved second term. Well, so far, so good, I would say, but there you go. I hope that we can all agree that that is something that we can all do without. Well, I think those are two very, very interesting comments. Like, that is highly telling about where someone who sits within the political party definitely comes from the party. That also tells you where the main break is on the political party. It's still over Brexit. Still over Brexit, over the European question. Fundamentally, Euroscepticism. Was it right? Was it the right way to go? No. History is now showing, given the damage that Brexit has done, Euroscepticism was a dead ideology. It was dead on arrival, that it should not have been countenanced, that it should have been kept far, far away in the political wilderness. But they got power. They got power very unjustly. It was not a good debate of ideas. It's that the ERG sat in front of David Cameron during the coalition years and basically said, if you do not give us what we want, which is a referendum on the EU question, we will go and join UKIP. That was not a political debate. That was a hostage negotiation. And they knew it. So, yeah. Say what you will about that, but that was it. Anyway, let's see if there's been any more comments done. Last couple. No, unfortunately. Only 3. But yeah, that's very interesting. That does show that there is, I think he's seen something. He's seen something very, very bad to say that there is such a low turnout. And to be doing it almost at the 11th hour, because as I do this, there is, it's 1:15 now. So you've got 5.5 hours? 5.25 hours, really. 5.25. Yeah. But essentially, you've got 5 hours and 20 minutes to cast your votes. Now, of course, at the time this video releases, the ballots will be closing. But to do it and to put out this type of article at essentially the last minutes. Yeah, that is going to be, yeah, I think there's gonna be an awful turnout. And bear in mind, if you're a conservative, if that guy, um, what was his name now who's commenting here? Uh, Angelo. Angelo, if Angelo sees this video and wants to sort of come on and discuss this, I would be very, very happy um, to have someone come on and sort of discuss internally the sort of the problems that have been going on in the Conservative Party. I would love to have that conversation with someone because I think fundamentally the Conservative Party is not answering fundamental questions that have still been popping up to this day. And I would love to get and have that conversation with someone who's actually been on the inside, um, dealing with the Conservative Party. That will be a fascinating conversation to have. So if you are that person or you are that Angelo who wrote that comment, please do get in touch with me. I would love to have you on at some point and have that discussion. So, or Damian Green. Damian Green, if you do see this video, I would love to have that discussion with you as well. But as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.